Rolling now? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
I'm going to say Hail Mary, I feel like it.
Okay,
To
yeah.
thank her for her guidance, protection.
Yeah.
It's kind of the reason we're here. Because
Yeah.
we were there.
Yeah, we've been like following Mary.
And thank
for
you,
a while.
Namsatya. For,
Say your full name.
Namsatya.
for
And then you're like the full?
Namsatya Kaur Khalsa.
Khalsa. Okay.
Khalsa. And you changed your name recently?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't because it's been 7 years. I went by Namsatya, but the Khalsa I added very recently because I got baptized. When I was
Khalsa.
in Khalsa.
Khalsa. It's Punjabi name, right? Punjabi?
Yeah, Khalsa is the order of the Khalsa. So yeah, it goes back to
Interesting.
that's the Khanda, yeah, Dadi Shakti.
Right, it's the first time I've seen it close.
Mm,
And thank you very much for
Yeah.
accepting our
thank you.
offer. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah, just to talk and to get to know you.
Mm.
Yeah.
We can explain that we were in Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
and we were, well, you know what's going on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I have to acknowledge it because it's been like a physical trauma. Like every day, I'm kind of obsessed by what's happening, and that's why we came to the classes. Well, that's why I came to kind of deal with this kind of like obsession with it. And
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Martin's been like very obsessed with it for like person for a long time. And then I was sort of staying in Jerusalem, and then I came to Bethlehem. We met in Bethlehem at the end of September last year, and then what happened in October, and then since then we've just been trying to navigate like how to kind of maintain connection with the people that we met there, and but like Martin had really like quite a physical trauma from it, and I think something about starting the year, like we just dove into the Kundalini practice in December, like January, February, and we've gone every day, and it
it's
has
like
been
the 40. I think we hit the 40.
The
Yeah,
40
yeah,
days.
yeah, I think so.
It's like,
Yeah.
like Jesus in the desert, or the 40 days is a thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like a fast thing.
Yeah. No, the 40 days, I mean, I don't have to go straight into like yogic teaching, but the 40 days is significant because Yogi Bhajan always gave a meditation, said like do it for these 40 days. And then what happens is also that scientists have studied people who meditate, and they say that after 40 days, the gray matter of the brain permanently changes. So there's a permanent change in the brain that happens after 40 days. So that's why that's significant, and it shows up.
It feels like something.
Yeah, it shows up also.
Well, yeah, the wobble as well. And I'm going to say Hail Mary. I would love
Yeah,
to do
sorry. Yeah, do you know it?
that. Yeah, Hail Mary,
Okay.
full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now, and at the hour of our death. Amen. That's it.
Amen. Good.
And yeah, so that's why we started coming. And then recently you had a wobble. But I feel like we should start at the now and go backwards, or start at the forwards and go backwards. But I'm not sure.
So you met each other in Jerusalem. Did you know each other before?
No, we met here in Mallorca.
Ah, you met here in Mallorca.
Met here in
okay.
Mallorca.
That's a good
Yeah.
place to start.
Yeah. Met here in Mallorca, but then we met again in Bethlehem,
Yeah.
and we had this quite intense week of just of like filming and meeting people, and and like Mary connection as well. And then we met again here. But yeah, the Kundalini during the beginning of this year has definitely been like a shared thing, and like quite a journey.
Yeah, I was doing Jiva Mukti before.
Yeah.
So we met at a Jiva Mukti class.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Lily, I don't know if you know Lily, but
With who?
Lily, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was I was kind of into that. But it was only 2 or 3 classes a week.
Yeah.
Now it's like, if you go every day, it's completely different. And I like I don't know, it's a completely different thing. But you remember how we met as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
because I remember like reading it, and it's
But
like
it
that
took
just,
me a while to connect it because it
Mhm.
was such
Yeah,
a
yeah,
different
yeah.
scenery.
Mm.
And like, yeah, so it took me a little while to connect.
I remember the
You were.
first thing that struck me was like you're immaculate in the clothes,
Yeah.
and you were dressed. It wasn't your boyfriend, was it?
My husband? Oh, I think the person who was
Yeah,
with me
the
was
teacher.
my best friend,
Yes,
Benjamin.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you were dressed, but you were dressed kind of the same, and I was like, wow.
Mhm.
And that's one of my things about the clothes, about the white things.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like, tell me what it means.
The white
Yeah.
clothes. The white clothes. I mean, there's a consciousness to it, no? When you wear white, you have to be more careful. Where do you sit? How do you move? Like you move yourself through the world in a different way when you wear white. So there's, I mean, all the things that we're doing is just based on that. It's like, can I bring more awareness to it, and can I get more energy from it? And what I know, I mean, I come from Scandinavia. I lived in Paris. I was wearing all black all the time.
Yeah.
So of course this has also
Wow,
been
yeah.
a big transformation for me. You know, this has been my big journey too, to get to where, like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
But what I can say about it is just that I can actually say a lot. But why, like, how we dress and why we wear what we do, you know, a lot of it is just, it's like a social conditioning, you know. So it's like anything else. You just start to kind of ask questions like, wait, why am I wearing this? Oh, I like it. Why do I like it? How come? You know, what does it give me? And what I started to see when I met my teachers and the people who practice Kundalini was obviously the white. And you're like, wait, what? Why does everyone wear white? What's going on here? And then they're just like, try it. Just try to wear white.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So I started wearing white when I went to classes. And then it just started to seep into my everyday life to the point where if I was wearing black, I didn't feel the same way. So I just started noticing, oh, I feel different when I wear white. If I have a bad day, I'm like, what am I wearing? It's like, oh, so it just becomes another tool to change how you feel and change your energy level.
So there's no rule, or there's no thing. There's not like
There's no
nothing,
dogma. It's
there's
like,
no Bible or written thing with Kundalini.
No.
There's no like you have to wear white because
I
this.
mean, there
this
no,
tradition
there
is-
isn't a Kundalini Bible, if you will say.
Yeah, yeah.
There isn't, but there is a teacher who is very significant and who gave teachings, Yogi Bhajan. So of course there's what he gave, you know, and one of the things was, you know, you can wear white and you can. There's a teaching that says, you know, it doesn't. It's not even practice related. It's like you change how you dress and you change what you eat, and you can completely change your life. Just because those two things give you so much energy, and when you start to just, you know, try it and like you have an experience of it. And that's what happened to me. It was like I literally had an experience of, oh, when I wear black or even just wear clothes that I don't feel elegant in, you know, if I'm like wearing like the dirty sweatpants that I was wearing all day long and like slept in, I was like, I'm going to feel, I love to wear my dirty sweatpants sometimes when I'm cozy around the house, but I don't like it to go out, you know. I feel, you know, we all have those little rituals around how we dress, like, oh, now I'm going out, and oh, this is the event, how do I want to feel, how do I want to present myself? So it
changes.
just came from asking those questions and then relating that to the technology that I've been given, which is like, oh, you wear white. White has all the colors in it, and it's reflective, and it doesn't block the aura. That's the idea. So actually, the only time where it's like, and you can do whatever you want, but the only time it's kind of prescribed, like you should wear white, is when you teach, because
Right.
as the teacher, you have a certain auric field that you're trying to transmit through the practice, through the teachings. And if you have something on that is like also even just like non-natural fibers, it will block your auric field, which we know, right? I mean, that's just science.
Yeah.
It's not even a belief. It's just a science, you know, that if you put whatever it is, like rubber soles, you won't hit the lightning. Like all of this stuff is just like, it's science, you know? So it doesn't block your auric field. And that means that if people are sensitive to it, they might feel different. And especially if you're sensitive to it, you will feel a difference. I think I only tried one time to teach without a turban, and I was like, oh, never doing that again, because
Make you feel
it was just not contained, the energy for me. So little things that like I just started doing and been doing for many, many years. And then again, adding the other features is like just an extension of that. And then also there's absolutely something about when your practice becomes noticeable, also with like nuns or priests or people who are religious, or like in all different layers, there's a reflection also from the world.
Yeah,
So
like
it
you're
helps
visually
to,
separate.
yeah. So like you're kind of you receive that reflection from other people, so which kind of confirms you in a way in where you're going and who you are. So
I relate to
all
that.
those different layers to it. But it can start so simple, and like of course then we build on it and build on it. But the first thing is just like we know the studies of like why do you like don't wear synthetic clothes, right? That like it blocks your energy field, and like even like measuring the human frequency, and then you wear synthetic clothes, it's like the frequency goes to zero. So there's many of those different studies that are supporting these yogic claims, which is interesting because these teachings are thousands of years old. So science is just catching up with a lot of it, which
So,
is interesting.
so you're wearing white to make your power, to give you like superpower.
To get energy.
Superpower, right?
Yeah, energy.
Superpower.
To gain
Kind
more
of like-
energy.
Okay, we have to
Yeah.
pause.
Well, 10 minutes because it goes really fast.
Goes fast.
Yeah.
Kundalini, like every
Okay,
little
right,
detail,
just
like-
keep
like
going.
the stage, the mic, the PA.
Just keep
The-
going.
Really? Just
Yeah,
keep going.
keep going.
Well, I want to talk about childhood and not personal, but like you're not just Kundalini,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like your school, you went to school in Denmark, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Copenhagen, right?
Yeah.
No.
Where?
I grew up in the mainland, so like Denmark is like 2 islands, and then the mainland Copenhagen is on the island, and the other part is like top of Germany, basically, right across from UK, so not that far.
Yeah, I mean it's
Okay.
strange because I always thought Denmark was like more like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, but then you
They're
look at the
so
map,
close.
it looks like Germany.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of quite strange. And Denmark owns is it right that they own Greenland? Is that true?
Yeah,
Somehow.
yeah. I mean, yeah, they have how do you call it, self-rule and stuff.
Something
So
strange,
it's not
yeah.
like, but
Greenland's
technically, yeah,
Yes.
technically Denmark owns Greenland.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
But
Or it's part of Denmark. Yeah.
so
It's
you went to
territory.
just like a normal school?
No,
or,
I actually didn't.
Ah,
I
okay.
went to. No, I actually did not. I
explains
never
it.
went to a normal school. Actually, that's the story. I went to a very experimental school when I was a kid. It's not quite like a Steiner or something, but a lot of the philosophy is based on that. So it's method, but it's not so like set as. But like open classes, we didn't have any doors in the classrooms, and there was a lot of.
That's cool.
There's a
Oh,
lot
doors
of
is
like.
great. I used to have
That's
a
a great
girlfriend. She
idea.
took all the doors out of her flat, and it was so cool. Like even the toilet. It was cool.
We had
like,
doors in the toilet, but it's very much based on so again just like things like the energy needs to flow. Like I heard those things since I was since a young age. It's like we don't want to block the flow of the energy. Those kind of things that of course at that time you don't really pay attention to it. But I think in many ways that absolutely also helped to shape how I grew up. But it was a special kind of school where we also like I never had geography. We were like
music, art.
yeah, it was music, art, but also just like learning to form your own projects. So we would have like
That's really
project
cool.
classes,
That's
and
great.
then
That's so good.
and then you choose what you want to do, and then the different teachers would assist you and help you in making that happen. So absolutely, that also formed my way
But
of
what about
thinking.
here? What about David Ra? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like here they're just being taught to be obedient and like, okay, you can go to the toilet now, now's the time to play, now's the time. It's completely different, right?
Well,
You're not worried about that?
I don't know if I want this on camera,
No, okay, but I like just like,
but we should have a
Strange that he-
conversation about that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
But generally my family, like they're very like there's people who work with children, my family and my mom too, and like it's just a general thing. Like my mom, my husband's sister all worked with children, so and they all have like this impression with the school where they're like, oh, it's kind of like it's cool. They have like different they have like different rooms, different sensory experiences. So I don't have that impression of the school, that I feel they're very kind of like pinned down.
Well, it's just
I
the whole
think
system.
it's-
It's not specifically
No,
about
no,
for the
exactly. I
Mozart,
actually
it's the whole
think,
thing.
it's like school system in general. Sure, there's a whole conversation there. But for the school Valdemosa, I feel like they have I like that approach.
Oh, my son loves going. you
Yeah,
know,
and I feel like all the
I'm
kids
like,
really
take a
love
day
it.
off, and he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
and so it's cool. But then
Yeah.
there's things.
But of course, school in general, there are many things that we could talk about there. And for me, most of it, it's not about like, fuck the system. It's just like times are changing, and the way that we process information now is so fast, and the way that we're given information is so fast that a system like a school is maybe just like it's too slow. It's just simply not practical anymore to send kids in those kind of frames, because it's like, that's definitely one thing that I feel like I got from my school. It's like I had to form my own questions to then explore. And
That's so good.
in the end, I also don't believe, like, some people are very like afraid of school, or they want to do unschooling, like all of these things, and I do see some points there, but also it's like, as my teacher also said, that to teach the children, it's like, you got to play the game. Life is a game, and sometimes you got to play the game. And if you want to make an impact in the world, which we hope that these Aquarian children, these amazing children we are bringing through, we also want them to make an impact in the world. You can not only just separate yourself. You kind of have to play the game. And actually, for me, it relates very much to yogic teachings also, that like Kundalini yogis, we are not cave yogis. We are not removing ourselves from society.
It's progressive, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the term. I don't know. I've never heard it, but we could label it as such. But
Well, it's
just the
changing.
difference.
I understand, yeah.
Adapting to the times.
Yeah, and also just the fact of like, you take a Brahmin, for example, like that's the example that Yogi Bhajan came with. You take a Brahmin, it's very much about like, I cannot get involved, I need to keep my peace. Where it's like, we're at a point where we're like, well, I just want to be okay no matter what. Like, put me in the pit, but I'm still okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much that approach. And of course, Kundalini yoga and Sikhism are two separate things, but they also have overlaps. And I'm a Sikh, I'm a baptized Sikh. But the whole idea of the Khalsa order is actually that it's the warrior saint. So it's not just a saint, it's like you have to be a warrior. I mean, you have to want to and be available to stand up for what you believe is right, and navigate society, like being a contributing member of, so whatever you want to call it. But it's not about removing yourself. It's actually just about, you are in this world, and then how do you move that and stay conscious with it. And that's what makes Kundalini yoga for me so interesting, because it really gives you the tools to just like thrive in normal life, and you don't have to become a teacher, you don't have to look like this at all. It just gives you tools for how to navigate in life in a better way. So I like that approach, and I want to pass that on to my child as well. That is like, there's certain structures in this world, and it's like, how can we succeed
Within
thrive? Well, not even within necessarily, but just like knowing and playing that game. Like you don't have to be like, school sucks and I don't want to go to school. It's like, no, school is fine, but then how do you make it fine? If something isn't working, like, how do you help to make it fine for yourself? And honestly thrive in it, not just like the getting by, but like honestly thrive in it.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm afraid of is fear, the guilt. I mean, like last week, for example, he stays for lunch. He doesn't stay for lunch often, but he stayed. And he's afraid to say the fork's dirty or the food's not so good. And I don't like this fear that they seem to teach. And obedient and be fear and like also guilt. I think this is a Catholic thing for me personally, maybe. But I'm not sure if I like the system. Like, I would prefer him to go to a school like yours, but I'm sure you had to pay for a school like yours, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's not a public school. I don't know. I guess I will know more when he starts to
He's
become
just started,
more.
right?
Yeah,
my son's just finishing, right?
Yeah, so I guess once
yeah.
he's been, maybe he has a better insight and a better vocabulary to explain what's going on there.
Do they do like Kundalini for like children then? It seems to be maybe not.
You absolutely can, and I teach my son Kundalini yoga.
But because like yoga is all
Because you had
kids
that idea,
and
right?
Yeah.
I just thought it'd be great to have a class that was specifically
in
for
Rama,
kids.
in Rama, Los Angeles, they have kids classes.
Oh, they do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I just
great.
think we're not really there yet, and
Not
maybe
yet, yeah.
also not understanding quite like if there's a demand for. So maybe that's
It could-
something we
yeah,
should
no,
we
I
should
love
think
it
about.
because
Yeah.
I think you learn from the kids a lot, and a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
it is like my son. I brought him, and he was just like he thought it was weird, and he says I prefer Jivamukti, you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, well,
But that was
because
one
it is
thing that...
and then he gets scared from that, you know. But I don't know why
Interesting.
he's afraid.
But he has also,
Yeah.
I've heard him make sounds and gone along with the singing and the chanting as well, he has done. And that's one thing that I loved about it, that I found it like very, I don't know, I felt like I was connecting to my child self, and like it was very like imaginative and playful. I remember there was like a moment where you once did like a, there was one movement and it just reminded me of like a horse, or, I mean, there's like different like animals, and there's different, and there's the swan one, and it's like very, there's like a playful element to it as well, an imaginative element, and I think that also, that like relates to children. So
Totally, yeah.
that was one thing that I really enjoyed about it.
There are some meditations and practices that are more like specific for children, but the general like approach to it also, especially from my teachers, but also your body. I mean, you sometimes have some lectures where he's like giving a very intense lecture, and then the camera turns and it's like, oh, it's children. Like he's like in a
really?
children's setting, and people were like, because there's such a division between what we think children should know, and then what they actually need to know, and like what they actually need to be taught. So this is a whole other part, but the Kundalini like pregnancy teachings is something that I also teach and work with women with. And the whole idea is that, you know, everything that's happening now in our life, it's like it does not really matter. It all happened in the womb. Like when we're in our mother's womb is actually when we are formed, when we learn. So many women obviously don't know that teaching. So that's why that's the idea. That's why many of us walk through life and we're very confused and we don't really understand what's going on, because we were never taught what actually what's going on. And what we see with the children also now, I know a few people who have older children who practice Kundalini yoga during the pregnancy and were applying these teachings. The children are very different. They're just
Yeah,
like
you can hear a lot. And
yeah,
I suppose everything's forming, so
yeah.
it's 9 months important.
Yeah, no, they are extremely important, and it's the only time that you as a parent, as a mother, have kind of direct influence on your child. And if I could just say one thing about my child, is one of the things that I notice is actually that I don't really perceive him with a lot of fear, for example.
Oh, good.
And that
Sorry.
Yeah.
So annoying, isn't it? Hold the thought, okay?
Yeah.
Hold the thought.
thought.
Also, I'm so sorry, hold a thought. But my bottom is like really cold and really sore because I've got bony
sit on
bottom.
something,
So I think, can you?
I don't need
No,
this.
don't take off your
Oh,
scarf.
I absolutely
get
don't.
something
I
from
don't
the
need
car.
this one. You
Okay.
can definitely sit on this.
Okay, great.
I'm fine.
The sun's actually going to hit soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
That's nice.
It's cool to jump between, like, you can go like talk about stuff like before Kundalini and like after.
Yeah. What do you
This
mean?
is like from like the school and then growing up and all that. I'd like to know all that stuff. So.
No, but that is part of what we are doing, and which is why I
Thanks,
teach
keep it on.
I teach Kundalini yoga, but the most important teachings for me are the ones around the pregnancy, because that's where I believe we can do a most. That's where I believe we can make the most change, actually, because if children are brought into this world in a different way from women who are feeling more in their power and more self-sovereign, and who understands the importance of forming the child while they're in the womb, and then the whole practice of the 40 days again, which is present in many cultures, also in more like indigenous cultures, that you stay at home with the child the first 40 days, and in that way you create a security in the child, that that just is different from what many of, like, one of the reasons why we often feel fearful and we feel a lack. It's like it's just that like immediately mother nurturing that we maybe didn't have in the same way. So that's a huge teaching actually that we're touching upon, and we could spend a really long time talking about that too. But I don't know if we wanna go in that direction.
Fear's something that you learn, right? It's not, you're not naturally afraid of things, but it's like you get taught to be careful and watch out.
Absolutely, but I think also more like fear. I think fear is something that's being evoked. You know, it's like it's always present. We live. It's a polarity planet. But if you kind of have the general just like discomfort within yourself, which is basically how we create all of our weirdness, you know, as humans, like our kind of crookedness and weirdness is just a lot from that. It's like there was a need for security, there was maybe just a need for comfort, and then you don't get it, and then you start to change your behavior to try and figure out, okay, I'm not getting it when I'm doing this, or I'm here in my crib crying alone, no one's picking me up, what am I going to do? Oh, now I'm silent. Oh, now change. You know, you start to like to change yourself, and then we get to a point where we just like we don't know who we are anymore, and it's very confusing, and then we walk through life and we're very confused, and when we're very confused we can't really move because it's like, should I go north, should I go south, I don't know what's happening, and then it's hard to kind of move ourselves, right? And that's how many people, I believe, get stuck. Of course it's not that simple, you know, there's many factors in it, but I think that's a huge factor also. So if we have to kind of go back to the school of it, you know, for me it's like I still feel like as parents we have you know, it's easy to maybe blame a school system or like society is like this, but it's like, but we're not really getting anywhere with that, you know. So we're like, how can I help my child, or how can I how can we move in a different way, or how can we succeed within the parameters and the frame, and learn what again, it's just come back to that kind of like authentic, like what actually satisfies me, what actually nurtures me, and then not the yeah. Yeah.
Now you said something about kids that were born in certain dates, specific dates.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was to do with digital stuff or just their minds are different. Was it
Well,
digital we were talking about?
There are two things. So we have the Aquarian age, which started in 2012. And then before that, we call it as like an 11-year cusp period. So that's when the age kind of starts, but we're not quite there yet. But we're like starting, so there's a new consciousness coming in on the planet. Does that
come from planets, right? It's not written down anywhere, it just comes... People can interpret it, some different people can interpret it.
Yeah, but also just if you look at the world, it's like since 2012 things are very different, right?
Yeah, well, it's that everything's changing, it feels that way. Changing. Like that's why everybody's, it feels like... Yeah, like you said, but these kids have got their minds made up differently somehow.
Yeah.
Because of planets and also the digital stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I know, but there's of course a lot that needs to be explained, or like a lot of backstories. But basically, the mystics for you know really long times were calling in on this age, and even if we link it back to Christianity, you know, what changed in the year 0. We went from the age of Aries to the Piscean age, and the one who ushered in that consciousness of the Piscean age was Jesus Christ. So he's very instrumental in bringing that consciousness in. If we look before,
and how did he do that? How did he do that? Like what, in terms of like, what is the? Remind me what the Piscean consciousness is.
Yeah. So Aries consciousness, like before AD 0, it's like an eye for an eye. You know, it was a very violent time.
Yeah.
And what did Jesus Christ do? It was like the teachings of the heart. Turn the other cheek, and the teachings of the heart. How do you open the heart? How do you bring in a consciousness in humanity that is compassionate? You know, love the other. Like those for now seems to us kind of given, but back then that was very revolutionary to say those things. You know, so there was a change of ages that we can very kind of clearly see. And the thing is, we're experiencing that again, that there's just a change of ages.
And so how do you describe the Aquarian age, like building upon the Piscean? Like,
well, it's very technological. Right. Like that's another thing with Aquarius. It's just like it's very technological and it's revolutionary, meaning that we have to reconsider everything we're doing. We're not just kind of building upon other societies, it's really a moment where we will just see. We will hopefully see some structures really fall like permanently, and it's decentralization too.
Yeah,
it's like
decentralization.
decentralization of power, and it's also it's a social consciousness, like it's a community based consciousness, but it's not. It's more like smaller communities, like it's like a grid, you know. It's like networks in that way. So that's what we're seeing now. And then one of the big things, I have a friend who's also Kundalini yogi, and she works on maternity unit in the US, and she said that they could clearly see a difference in the children before smartphones and then after. It was like the way that children were looking, the way it was all just so different. And we as people who are not, I don't know when you were born, maybe you were born
I'm
no. Okay.
good. I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. 95, right? I'm 95. Yeah.
You know, if you were born before, we have weird relationships with technology because we did not grow up with it.
I feel like a lot. I think it's bad. I'm negative.
Yeah.
Me too.
And most people
like,
have that. It's like because we
like,
have our own issues with it.
Yeah.
And actually, what I see and understand is that the kids don't really have problems with it, but they pick up our problems. So it's like if we have a weird relationship with it, children will have a weird relationship with it. I know that I'm probably. Especially in this community, maybe I'm very progressive with my relationship to technology, but I mean, it's not going anywhere. So again, it's about how do we adapt? How do we find the right way to use it? Because there's nothing wrong with the technology itself. It's neutral. It's about how things are being used. In many ways, it's a great tool, and we're being greatly assisted. There are many things that we don't have to spend time on anymore, that because of technology and because of technological advancements. And then it's like, okay, so we free up time for ourselves as humans, and that makes some people feel how's that word, but like disposable, like, oh, now I had this role, but now technology is taking over, so there's a threat, right? But really it's like, oh, so you have time freed up, now what do you want to use that time? You know, it's a time that I know that this is not what most people perceive, because that's not what they experience within themselves, but I'm very hopeful for the future. I think at this point it's pretty revolutionary to be hopeful for the future.
We're in a simulation.
But I am.
We're either in a simulation or it's going to be Armageddon. That's what people say. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's going to be like.
I don't see it that way,
Armageddon.
and also
What
the
was
people. Well, there will be revolution because that's Aquarius. So there will be revolution, but is that a bad thing? That's
Definitely
the
not.
question.
Yeah, revolution is a very good
That's the
thing.
question, right? Is that a bad thing? It's just sometimes thing has to fall in order for something new to arise. So we're definitely at that point that, you know, things are being put on the. How do you call this? But like they're definitely at a pinpoint where it's like it can't continue the way
It's not
doing.
sustainable. Like
It can't continue.
Finished.
You can feel it
absolutely.
crumbling.
Oh,
Yeah.
it 100% is. So those things has to fall. But then it's like it's just a perspective. It's like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's like I think it's a good thing. And I also
it
have
can go two ways. It can be like everybody becomes more greedy, or they become more
like what do you revolutionize
It
into?
seems to be right now. It seems everybody's a bit worried and more greedy, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Individualistic. And,
there's the other analogy of it. There's like, you know, it's kind of like the spinning of the drain, right? At the end, it goes very fast, you know, and it's very noticeable. But it's because there's like and there are absolutely structures of power that are losing that power, and they know it and they feel it. So there's an extra kind of enforcement, which can be uncomfortable. We'll probably get to a point where we're all very uncomfortable about the changes that are going to happen, and maybe the revolution, and you know, there will absolutely be a pinpoint moment where we have to change the way we live, and that will be uncomfortable for many people. But you know, it's maybe, I don't know, that attachment that comes, a detachment that also comes from the practice, where I'm like, yeah, but it's just that why else did we incarnate at this time? Like, why else did we decided to come at this moment if it was not to experience this and help it to come in? So for the children, I'm very curious to see what they can do in these times and what they can do with the technology, and that's what I kind of want to guard, and also a lot for my child. and instead of depriving him of the technology, just teach him how to use it in the best of my capacity. He will know
He's
way.
teaching me now.
Yeah, no, my child too.
Yeah, they teach me how to.
I
I can't
exactly.
figure this out, and he's like, it's 2 seconds, and he's
Yeah.
fixed. Like last night, I got blocked out of Instagram, and he
Yeah.
sorted me out. He got me back out.
Yeah.
But can you just
But
can you just talk about the just one thing on the technology,
Yeah.
like the things that you like, what you find beautiful about it? Because I don't know, you embody so much like purity. I feel, you know, purity of self, purity of presence, and that was why I was so excited to go to your purity of self class. And purity is something that I really like. It's one of the qualities that I hold most dear as well, like purity of heart, you know, purity. And purity of life and experience. And of course, this experience right now it's totally pure. I mean, it's totally, you can feel it. But when you introduce technology, there's like it feels like there's like a layer of separation. You know, the experience is no longer pure because you might be taking a photograph, or there's something in between that direct kind of experience. And I pine for like the early childhood years before technology kind of took over, and I'm so grateful that I grew up, you know, just before it was like all consuming. And I like miss that time, and that time is very like precious to me, and I want to live in a way that is like faithful to that, but it feels a bit like set apart from this sort of technological saturation. But you do seem to use it very wisely, but I'm just wondering what you see. Do you see it getting in the way of like a pure experience of the world, or not?
It's a good question, and I think I like the detachment of it. I like to just think of it as a tool. I heard other people I know, or even I listened to this podcast recently where the whole podcast was about like how do we manage ourselves on Instagram, and I'm like, why even have those issues? Like why do you choose to engage with? And I know sometimes people just can't help it, but again, it comes from probably just like the consciousness, in a way, maybe the self-control also that the practice give. I absolutely have days where I'm on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I start to notice in myself that right now I'm not feeling great, or I start to compare myself, or I start to have some negative thoughts that are popping up. What do? I shut down the app. Like it's like literally, it's no different than that. And then I'm like, oh, so now what do I want to do instead? Okay, I'm going to go for a walk. Yeah, I think that's what I need. Or I'm going to sit down. So for me, a lot of it just comes from maybe choosing not to have
It's
an
like
issue
if you're
with
depressed, I mean, people go to psychologists for a year
Yeah.
and but the thing to do is just forget about it.
Yeah.
And then that's
Like,
what I keep, because
and
I
it's-
just forget,
but
that's
also,
it, forget about
I
it.
also
and then,
know
That's
that
good,
when
yeah.
you talk with people who have issues, you cannot just tell them that. You know, you can like
Well,
if people are
can't.
depressed. I mean, you can choose to, but it doesn't help. It's a bit like just have a good day, and people are like, yeah, but how? You know, how am I going to
Yeah.
have a good day? And this
Forget
is for
about
me.
it.
This is where the technology come in. This is where I'm very happy that I have that we have something else also to offer, which is like the technology,
like you
which
can
is
see like a pair of like spectacles or something like that then.
yeah.
Sort of.
No, but literally, even like they you know, when you are depressed, even your memories will have that layer of depression. You will remember your life as being more depressing than it actually was. So of course there are many facets of this, but absolutely, that's also why I think I absolutely can have that balance with it, and maybe also why I don't see it necessarily as a threat, and I really do see it as an opportunity for humanity. We need to rearrange some things, and this change and this rearrangement is difficult for people, because they might, as I said, maybe it's taking them out of a job that they had, but then we need to, as a society, again take hand of that. How do you say it? But like we need to. Everyone needs to be helped, in this
Yeah, like
process
this, when you like the Sikh, one thing I know about the Sikh thing is this free food thing. I
Yeah,
remember in Glasgow,
the Langa,
we used
yeah.
to go and get food. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, free
You
food.
Yeah,
went?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like
They have it here in
there's the
Mallorca
big-
too.
There's a big
Have every
community in
Sunday.
Glasgow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Really?
Is that what
Oh,
you
I'd like
meant
to
about
visit that.
the
Yeah.
technology? Like, I was thinking more of the mics and the amps and the stage, and that's not technology, but you were thinking, what were you meaning about it?
No, I just meant like
Yeah.
everyday life, like our
Oh,
everyday
right,
life.
because
you
I'm
know?
thinking back to Kundalini.
No, I was not thinking about Kundalini.
No, but it's a really
Everyday
good
life.
question, and
Yeah.
because it's literally one of those things that is a new issues that people just didn't have a couple of years ago. So it's like it is a new thing, and that's why we are all very maybe consumed with that because we don't really many people don't have the answer for it. My answer for myself is very simple. It's like I shut down the app. Like I just put it down.
It's supposed to bring people
yeah.
together, but it seems to make people more separate. You know, like
there are people who feel more alone and separated
because
from
of
it.
this
Yeah.
technology.
But is it because of the technology? That's the big question, or is it something within the person that is, you know, the tool is.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes, you know, that's why maybe I'm a little bit defensive sometimes about technology because I don't think that that's the issue. I think that there's definitely needs to be a revolution in our sovereignty and like how we decide how do we want to live our lives.
My son's mom's like, okay, you can have 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just all or nothing. It's just like, okay, I'm just like tired. But I prefer none at all, you know. Or when he's 13, he can have a phone, or when he's 16, he can have a phone. But
I think it's a very personal choice,
yeah.
when it comes to the children. I mean, just going back to what we said, it's like the first time I handed my son a phone, he was like, yeah, okay, so I go there, and I was just like, well, how do you know this stuff? And it's like, well, he does, because, so I just felt like it was like second nature, and I'm like, this is a tool for him that he should be able to use, and I won't take it, I don't deprive my son of technology, actually, I don't. He does spend time with the phone, quite a lot, but also he's very clear, like when he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it. And I see many other children that I know where the parents have very strict rules, they're very obsessive with it then when they get it. So, you know, there's a screen and they're like, oh, my son isn't like that, because for him it's like, oh, it's just around. And we are, both me and my husband are not people who are like, oh, life is better without technology. No, we have all of the devices and we run around with the which is probably very bad for you. But
do you ever teach without it? Because
I guess no. I mean, you need it to take time. You need it for the music. So even that is actually interesting.
That got me with this because I do jiva, and it's all touch. And,
yeah.
But you're on the stage.
I used to teach Hatha yoga and vinyasa. So I also was used to teaching in this way. Yeah, I taught that for a couple of years in Paris when I lived there. Before then, I got into teaching Kundalini yoga.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. That again, for some reason, I did not have a problem with it. I was like, oh yeah, that's just a phone, okay. But I noticed that people who came to the class had a stronger reaction towards
phone
it.
in the class.
Yeah.
It's like I've got even electric light kind of fucks with me, you know.
Yeah.
So I prefer to cover my eyes, but you like, why do you have the stage for example?
Oh, it's a practical reason.
Oh,
it's not
like there's some kind of...
No, I mean, if done right, there is a thing about, you know, like the heart center reaches the level of the third eye. Like there's some technicalities in it, you know, it's like assisting, but it's literally just a practical thing. Like when Yogi Bhajan taught, there would be like hundreds of people in the room sometimes. So it's like he has to be up on a platform. If not, people could not see it, because also we don't do adjustments in Kundalini Yoga because you don't want to touch the person, because you don't want to mess with the process. It is a practice that goes straight to the subconscious mind. And sometimes I'll be like, do this. And people, like the other day in class, I was very clear with the mudra, and no one got it right. Like everyone did different things, and I would repeat the mudra, but people still did whatever. I don't remember exactly which one it was.
No,
I don't even know. But there was something. It was something like, I don't know. I don't remember. But there was some mudra, and everyone got it differently, and I was just like, they have their process. People have their process. They might think that, and for me too, when I practice, sometime I will actually. I will sit in the mirror just to be like, oh, am I actually doing 6 degrees? It's like, oh no, I'm not. You know, it is a process that works directly with the subconscious mind. So people do it in different ways. So this is also why the platform, it makes it easier for everyone to see. That's a practical aspect. The microphone too. Right? You can use your voice in a different way.
Use your voice in a different way with the mic, right?
Yeah.
And the music's very important as well, right?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not a problem with the sound.
Cool.
No, it's okay.
The music is important because the mantras are important, and we just try to expose people to mantras as much as possible. I have mantras playing 24/7 in my house.
Really?
In every room.
Wow.
Is that to chase the devil away?
But it
Someone told
probably
me
does
I
that
should,
too.
I should exercise myself, and then they said you have to exercise your house as well. I don't know what our problem is. Like, so that's, this is where I get confused, because she had a wobble last week, I know.
I did.
And it confuses me with the spiritual thing, and you're just saying it's a tool like the phone. So Kundalini's like a phone, right? Or is it more spiritual? It's not a religion, right?
We're talking about, we just had many discussions
There's
about
many
it's a
things.
spiritual
So many things at
practice,
once.
but it's also like a physical practice. It's also and it's also a yeah, Magdalena described it. She
not
said
religion.
she said it's not my spiritual practice, but it's my technology. And I was like, interesting, but it doesn't feel like you can separate the spirit, because I felt like I was like really loving it and loving how it was making me feel, and on a physical level, and I felt like it was making me more sensitive, and like healing things in me, and I was like, oh, it's wonderful. But then I did have some real deep conflict with the spiritual side of things, because I'm like real like devoted like Jesus person, and I started to feel slightly uncomfortable with like saying some of the mantras, and without really knowing what they meant.
That's a lot of questions there, right?
Yeah.
But I know where to take it. So
Yeah.
let's just keep going.
You sure you're making me cold by being cold?
I know.
I'll go and get something.
Okay.
Okay, so the big question, is it a religion?
Yeah.
I'll just tell my own experience. For me, Kundalini Yoga has helped me to show me where I need to go and in which spaces I need to enter. Meaning that the practice is what has unlocked different streams or different religions for me. But it's the technology itself is a technology, and you can use it regardless of your belief, your faith. There's even people, I haven't taught anyone personally, but my teacher said that, he was giving teachings or how do you say, there was someone who came to privates, and they were either Jewish or Christian, but they were like, I'm not doing the mantras. They were
This
very
is one
clear.
to one, you mean, right?
One to one, they're like very clear, like, I'm not doing the mantras. She's like, that's fine. There are other things you can do. Because there's many things in this technology. So if you're not comfortable with the mantras, you don't have to add the mantras. But the mantras do have the ability to bring you to places,
But it's just to focus, right? And to meditate.
Well, there's the mental focus of it, but also, I mean, they have different purposes and they have different abilities, and of course there's nothing here that I can sit and scientifically prove, but I can just look at my experiences and also the people around me, their experiences with it. But I'll tell you my story. So I did my teacher training, and why I say that it can bring you to places that you didn't even know you had to go. Like it can really be a guide. So I did my teacher training in 2017, and we went with my teachers, we went to the Basilica San Francisco, which is here. As I said, we went here. We go around because it's all just consciousness. Like, what do all of these religions, what do all of these historical people have in common? It's just consciousness. So Ekankar means there's one creator.
I've said this to you
There's
before.
one
It's one
creator.
story, really. It's always the same story, more or less, with all these different.
It's always the same story, right?
More
I mean,
or less.
it's
you
very.
don't agree with that, but it's.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But there's.
I do,
a
but
lot-
I chose one.
But just for different times, right? We talked about Jesus Christ. Was like,
It's
well,
good
he
against
was-
evil, right?
He was instrumental, essentially, and also that's what we came here for. Like that's what is available to experience on planet Earth. It's that polarity.
This is a battle every day. You battle the demon every day, right?
Huh?
It's like you wake up
You
and
battle,
you battle
yeah,
the demon.
That's the name of the game. That's what we came here to experience on planet Earth. It literally is a polarity planet, and we don't have good without experiencing evil. We don't have light without experiencing darkness. Everything here exists in a polarity. So that's kind of the first thing, maybe to like accept that, like, okay, everything here exists in polarity, and also that's what we came here to experience. So Anyway, back to my
Sorry.
story.
Is it long?
Back to my story.
Once upon a time.
So we went to meditate in this place, and during that meditation, I started hearing a voice, and I never heard a voice before in my life. I was not one of those kids who had a lot of mystical experience. I didn't have an imaginary friend. Like I was very connected to nature. I love nature. I love animals, but I did not have those like.
What, your subconscious, or was it actual? You could hear it.
I could just hear it in my head. It was like a thought, but it was not my voice. So I was
What
like,
was it
where
saying?
does
What did
this
it
come
say?
from? It told me to put my feet on the ground, and I was like, I'm a naturally very skeptical person. That's maybe also good to
Put your feet on
understand
the
about me.
ground.
So put your feet on the ground, put your feet on the ground, and then at some point,
You know it's
because
in
I
the
was
Bible,
wearing
right?
sandals, I was like, all right, I'm going to put feet on the ground, and I just felt a beam from my third eye to a place in the room, but I didn't open my eyes, to a place in this
You're in the
room,
church.
in the church, in like the
Wow.
back chapel. And I was like, okay, that's something interesting.
Yeah.
And then when I opened my eyes, I was like, what is that? Who is this? And then I went to the place, and it was Saint Anna. And I don't know who she was. I didn't grow up Catholic, so I don't know who Saint Anna is.
She's a prophetess.
No, now I know very well. But at the
They're all
moment,
prostitutes in that Bible.
No,
man.
not prostitute,
Oh, sorry.
prophetess.
Oh, sorry.
no, prophetess. She's the grandmother of Jesus, right? She's the
Yeah.
mother of Mary. But I had no idea because I didn't grow up Catholic. So for me, it was very strange. I was like, why? Okay. So I just felt like, okay, I received something, but I don't know what that is. Then at the same day or something, there's this yoga festival going on in France, and I decided I wasn't going to go. But then my teacher said, we had a conversation, and I'm trying to speed everything up because if not, this is a long story. Trying to speed everything up. He just was like, you should go to this festival. You should go check it out. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go. And then a friend was going, and I was like, it all just kind of like started to map itself out. But basically, at that festival, I met my husband.
Oh, wow.
And it was
Right.
like a whole,
Wow.
this was like a whole weird turning point. And so it turns out that he's very connected with Jerusalem, has been there many times, has
Okay,
visited,
okay.
had a best friend who was a Jewish and then became Orthodox Jewish, and he'd spent a lot of time there just in general. And
Wow.
his big kind of spiritual awakening happened there through those
Wow.
practices.
And he was
Of
teaching.
Judaism.
He's teaching.
Of Judaism. He's
Yeah.
not teaching. No,
No,
he's not teaching.
okay.
But he had gone, we all have a Saturn return. We all have like times, late 20s, where we're figuring things out and we go through some stuff. And his kind of big overcoming or becoming himself really happened through those practices and that lineage of Judaism. And so basically, we start a relationship. Like later on, we're friends for a long time. We start a relationship, and then I went with him to Israel and to Jerusalem, and there I had a very mystical experience visiting then the grave of Saint Anna. There's a church there, and there's the grave.
Where is that? Again?
It's in the little street going to the Lion's Gate.
Wow, I don't think I ever...
It's also
I
where
think
the
I ever
Prophet
went there.
Muhammad hit. So there's there's another historical
Actually, I do know it. Yeah.
importance of it. And basically there's two spots. There's the tomb of Saint Anna, and then there is the birthplace, they say, of the Virgin Mary, which I know is technically it's probably not
Oh
there,
my
but you know.
gosh. That's
there's-
one of my favourite churches.
Yeah.
I love it there. It's
Okay,
so beautiful.
yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favourite spots. I know exactly where it is. Yeah, it's amazing. Wow. Yeah.
So
love
I
it
just
there.
that started my relationship with her and with those figures.
What was
where-
the experience you had there?
It was again like a very huge kind of third eye opening, but it's been more like a guidance. And I'm weird talking about it because I always feel like when I talk about it, it sort of
Yeah,
leaves a little bit, It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
energy
yeah,
feels
that's
sort of
it.
leaves,
That's
but
good.
Yeah.
but basically all of the work that I've been doing, which you know me as teaching Kundalini Yoga, but the real kind of juice of what I'm offering is really these motherhood teachings, and even the name Mother's Divine. I know that I received it, and I was very I had a conversation where I was like, really, this is what I was very this is a lot. I don't know if I can hold that. I was not, but yeah, it's been that started my relation, like my personal relationship with this saint that I didn't know from childhood, but that what did it come through? It came through that meditation in
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga. That's kind of where we're back to.
Yeah.
And there's many different. We can take the full story, but there are many other mystical experiences.
Would you say it's
that-
more just opening up a door to
it's
know yourself,
opening a
right?
door, yeah.
It's not anything.
No.
It's not. People think it's what's not agnostic. You know what? when it's
Occult.
A cult maybe, or people are think it's pagan,
Pagan.
or
Yeah.
like a cult also.
Yeah.
It's-
Definitely.
but it's
people
not,
think
it's none of that stuff, right? You're just it's just about yourself.
it
Like
just
everything's
opens
like,
up spaces, and again, and I'm
Yeah,
telling this story because it surprised me. For me, it surprised me because as I said, I don't have that connection from childhood. My family were not religious, so it's not something that I had foreseen that I would go on this journey, and been to Israel, Palestine many times. Also, last time we went was in May last year, so also
Really?
very
Wow.
recently, and also been to Bethlehem. So I've done
Really?
much of this
You
same
went to
journey.
Bethlehem?
Yeah,
did you
yeah,
spend
several
some
times.
some time there?
We didn't stay
No.
there, but
Did
we.
you go-
we've
Did you go to the
been-
milk grotto?
Yes. I
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did, and I
You didn't go to
breastfed
Mary's
my
Well?
Did you go to
son
Mary's
there.
Well?
The
Mary's
well.
Well. No,
Go to
we didn't
Mary's
go
Well.
there.
It's outside of the village. a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit.
we
Yeah,
didn't go
it's a
there,
bit
but
further.
but so I just and that land, you know, obviously
Yeah.
when you're there, you understand
Whoa.
what the real fights are about. It's about that land and the power of the land, as I see it and understand it. There are different forces on the planet that wants to control that land, and that power that comes from it, and that's also one of the big kind of feelings that I got there was like. I mean, going to cave, what do you call it, cave number 4, like Qumran and like those
Qumran,
places
yeah, you
also.
went there, right?
Yeah. So did all of those things, but for me, I'm saying this because it's not something that I was necessarily interested in. And when I first saw Saint Anna, I didn't even know who she was. Then I found out she was the patron saint of motherhood, and now
Okay.
here I am with my journey that has been very much. My Kundalini journey was initiated through motherhood. Not that I became a mother, but it was the realization that I wanted to become a mother that made me take the practice serious. Because I was doing different types of yoga, and I was doing Kundalini yoga classes, and then I just had a moment where I also had a wobble.
A wobble.
A wobble, and I was like, why am I doing this? And there wasn't enough self-love to be like, I'm doing it for me. Like there just wasn't enough like actual self, like I want to improve, like there wasn't enough of that. But I remember I had
No, keep going. Keep going.
I remember that I had this moment where I was like, well, I know one thing I know for sure is that at some point I want to become a mother. And I was like, what type of mother do I want to be? And I was looking around my life and was like, not this. This is not, I'm not bringing a child into this. So that became my motivation for like, okay, I want to change things. I want to find the right partner. Which I absolutely did, you know. But all of that came through then the dedication to the sadhana, the practice, the daily practice. So, yeah.
No. Keep going. I mean, keep going.
So that's very much been how the whole journey has unfolded, and this is why I it really is a technology, and as we talked about, like technology, it's like it's neutral, you know, it doesn't have that connotation. But of course, if we want to talk about more like the religious side or the Sikhism, there's that available too, but it's not essential. You know, it's not essential. You can absolutely remove that, and in my opinion, then you'll get maybe a little bit less. I mean, I feel like there's so much energy and even just like beauty in that side of it too. But you can have a full Kundalini yoga practice and never use the mantras if you don't want to. And the practices itself do not come from Sikhism. But there are some that we know that they used, but we don't know if they came from Sikhism or just, you know, well, actually we do. Because...
But you wouldn't have went to Sikhism without Kundalini.
Probably
right?
not. I wouldn't
Definitely
even
not.
have known what it was. So, I mean, again, it's like it brought me to that place. And also, again, I think the
You're unusual. Most of the teachers are not Sikhs.
no,
right?
most of them are not. But
Is your husband?
no, No, my husband is not a
Why
Sikh.
would you do it? I mean, sorry.
Yeah, why would I do it? Because there was always a longing as soon as I was presented for it, and for me the mantras was really a big draw. And for me, especially the longer mantras, the banis, the japji, the japs, like all of these longer ones, I was very, very
them?
drawn to. Some of them I know, I memorized, yeah. But
Wow.
it came very early on, and now the paradox of it was that my teacher Guru Jagat was not a Sikh and was not interested in us becoming Sikhs in that way. She wasn't against it, but it was not. No one ever told me you should become a Sikh. Like no teacher ever
Right,
told me
she's-
that.
Is she
They
alive?
never-
Is she?
No, she
She's-
died
she's the one who
in
died.
The photograph in the place,
2021.
right.
Yeah, she's the one who
She was-
started Rama.
Is that why you came to Mallorca?
Yeah, it was.
She lived in Valdemosa, did she? Or?
No. She lived in Los Angeles, but she came here. How did Rama Mallorca start? She went here on like a invitation to teach.
Was it nature, or it wasn't the people, obviously, but was it the nature, or was it
She
some
recognized that there was.
energy?
Yeah, she
Really?
recognized there was an energy field.
But
here,
I
believe.
don't like this energy word. But how could you? What other word would you say if you were not? Don't use energy.
Interesting. Okay,
Good
don't
question.
use energy. That's
Like
the
vibration,
challenge.
even vibration, I prefer. You know, because
Atmosphere.
energy, I'm just like sounds like
Yeah.
it turns me off somehow.
Okay.
Atmosphere? No.
It was like the vibration, or just the earth, or the
You know,
nature, right? It's nature.
Sometimes it's maybe just an intuitive hint. You know, maybe she just
It sounds
somehow
sci-fi,
foreseen.
you know. It's not sci-fi.
Like somehow she just foreseen, like, oh, this is where we should set up shop. You know,
Right,
it's
right,
like,
yeah.
because it does seem very random when you think about it. Like, why Mallorca? She
I
was
mean,
in
I could
LA.
be cynical and say it's because there's plenty of people with plenty of money here as well. You could say
Well,
that, right?
we don't make
Don't
plenty of money, so,
okay.
so if anyone thinks that's always comical. Also, when people say that this is a cult and like it's manipulative, and like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I would have preferred something else if it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
for that,
Sorry, I
to
didn't mean to-
manipulate people for their money, because
And
no
the-
one
and there's
really
also
makes
the-
a lot of money you
Yeah.
know, in this field. So it always seems funny to me. Why? Maybe it's just the power of the word. She went here with Shamanpreet, who is now the CEO of Rama, and she was just like, ooh, Rama Mallorca. And Shamanpreet was like, be careful what you say. And then, it just came to be. There was some people on the island that she knew who had invited her here, and it just kind of like forged its way. So this is another kind of important, maybe also going back to my journey of just feeling like the pull towards certain things, that when you do this practice, you just start to open up to that's possible, and you're guided. So you have to maybe do less, take less decisions. Like the decisions are sometimes made for you, that you're just like, oh, that's where I need to go, and there's a trust that like, oh, that's what I need to do, that's where I need to go, that's
And
what
what
I need
about
to
how does that happen? Because I did feel that potentially happening, and I was getting,
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot of ideas. And even like the times where I didn't feel conflict, like doing the practice, was when, I would get like, because like following my own spiritual journey, like I read the Bible, but I'm not someone who would like, I find it always hard to like wake up in the morning and read the Bible at a certain time, because I can't follow that kind of routine. But in a very organic way, I would be doing the Kundalini practice, and like scriptures would come in a very organic way, like from my heart, and they would, or images, or like just, and that's why I always have a notebook next to me in Kundalini, because things would come up, and I did see it as sort of navigating me toward like where I was supposed to be going, and that was very beautiful. But then, I don't know if I almost, because I'm like a dreamer, and I'm very idealistic, and I imagine like the way I would like dream of my life to be, and who I want to be. And then I worried that I was becoming, with all that kind of projection and stuff, you become kind of almost fixated on this dream ideal, and then I almost felt like I was like chasing after something.
Yeah.
And so I sort of saw like a positive element to the fact that this was helping me navigate like my journey, but also maybe in a way where I was, like chasing after something, and I was like, okay, wait, slow down. Like running after these dreams in a way. if you know
Many
what I mean.
people use Kundalini
Yeah.
yoga in that way, and many people only relate to Kundalini yoga as a way to kind of like manifest, expand your energy field, strengthen your nervous system, so that you can hold more success, or more like it can absolutely work on that way too, but that's not the only part of the technology.
Yeah.
And also I know there's some people that I know who's like oh, I stopped doing the meditations, but my business grew anyway. I was like, yeah, but of course, it's like it's not a contingent to Kundalini yoga that like you will receive success. It's really about, like, as banal as it is, it's really about like just becoming you, and you become you by taking away those patterns. It's like
feel better,
the conditions. And then the practical element of it. You go to a class and you breathe and you exercise. It makes you feel good.
I was going with the lottery ticket under the mat, but it didn't work. The lottery ticket under the mat.
Oh, the lottery ticket.
Come on, where is it? I want the money and the love now. But I mean, the money didn't come, but if you feel better, that's kind of lovely, I suppose.
I mean, this is also why sometimes spirituality, and this is why I like Buddhism also in a lot of ways. Like, I also read a lot of like Tibetan Buddhist texts, which there's, as you've been to Rama, you see that there's connection, and a little curiosity from me, because I don't necessarily feel a huge connection with that lineage. But sometimes it can be a little bit brutal, because we again, it starts to be the question. It's like, okay, so why don't we have what we want to have? Why don't we have the success we want to have? Like, what is actually going on here?
And we don't want it.
Yeah, because in a way, maybe there's some part of you.
That's
there's
true,
some
right?
part
That's
of you,
actually true.
that actually doesn't want it. And
Turns
this
you
is
into an
where
asshole.
I think, well, money amplifies. So if you're an asshole, it will make you a bigger asshole.
Yeah.
That all energy will.
That's part of the reason I go, to stop being a dick. But
Is it working?
not really.
Pause.
So again, you need to look at like, what is prohibiting me from being who I am? Like, what is prohibiting me from being who I am? And a lot of the time it can be like a programming, as we talked about with the children, like a programming that is installed in you. There are different patterns, there are different past lives, things that you just carry with you, that is prohibiting you. So Kundalini Yoga can take those away. They can just help remove them. And how, I don't know, but it really does. There's habits that you can break very quickly. And that's what all spiritual practice is trying to do. That's what all systems are trying to do. So with Kundalini Yoga, it's just one of the it's available.
It's the ritual and the discipline is really nice as well. If you don't have it, the ritual of it and the discipline of it, it doesn't really matter what it is. I mean,
also,
of course,
especially being in like a Westerner living in this world, there isn't a lot of discipline, and we are not really encouraged. So for many people, it's like, it's even just that little adjustment of like, oh, I'm slightly more disciplined. There's something I'm committed to that I continue doing. And then it starts to change your relationship with discipline in all areas of your life. And then all of a sudden you're more disciplined with going after what you want to get, or you're more disciplined with your money,
it's
or
like
you're more disciplined
with the food, coffee, sugar. It's like, okay, what's next? Okay, sugar, coffee, or what's next? Stop being a dick. And then you, it's like a process, I suppose.
Yeah. So that's very much.
You drink coffee, or?
I don't drink coffee. I love coffee, but I can't.
Because
drink
I drink.
I wish I could. I love coffee, but I cannot. I get too
sensitive.
shaky. I get too shaky from it. So, but plenty of Kundalini yogis.
And no alcohol, right?
Drink
as well?
I haven't drank alcohol. That's for since a long time that I haven't drank any alcohol. Since years and years, and for me that was very good, because you said you wanted to talk about the checkered past, right?
Oh yeah,
I
didn't say checkered. You said checkered. I just said,
you said the past. You want to join in.
You went to this cool school.
Rarely, I rarely find that people come to this practice unless it's like it's an outswing, from one extreme to another. So the alcohol for me was definitely a big one.
When was your first drink?
I don't know, 14 or something.
What was it?
Yeah.
What do you like?
I don't know.
Cider?
Let her finish. I want to hear it.
Sorry.
No, but it's important.
That's just cultural. Like growing up in Denmark, and I was probably quite conservative as a child. Like I was not the wildest one in the bunch, but just going through that, which is just like again like something that's just considered normal in our culture and in society, and then start to you can only imagine, right?
That's the only way you socialize.
That's the only way you socialize. So for me, it was so linked with social. So when I stopped drinking, I had 3 months where I basically couldn't go out because I just didn't know how to socialize. And but just something just pulled me. Again, it's like I don't know always what guides me, what pulls me, but there's just something, an energy field, not energy, an energy field.
The voice.
that just kind of pulls me. and it helps me to go where I need to go. So I went through that process, you know, of stopping a lot of those things and changing how I was living and doing it pretty much on my own. Yeah.
You must be
Which
32?
older.
Really?
Yeah.
I was just being polite. Like, I'm within 2 or 3 years, right?
I turned 35, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I guessed
Well
that,
done.
didn't I?
35.
Well done.
Yeah.
I
I'm just trying to think about cultural
when you
reference
become
points.
a mother, you really age. Like that really,
Yeah.
those 2 years before that, it was very baby face. Well,
I mean, you're beautiful, you know. You're beautiful.
thank you.
You're very unique way. Very, yeah,
But
like
there
in
was
an
just-
internal way as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, there was definitely some big breaks, you know, that had to happen. But also, I mean, I do this one I told you guys, no, the addiction meditation. I've been doing that for years and
Like
years
that.
because it was. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was like heavily addicted in that way to things, but it was more just like the conditioning. It was like,
It's
this is
personality,
normal.
right?
Yeah, it's
I
like-
find if I like something, I like Kundalini, I want to
Yeah.
go every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like that as well.
Like sugar or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
Music.
just like I wouldn't even categorize myself as being like maybe like now I would say like checkered past, but you know I think it was just normal. Like it's just normal, like normal stuff that we all grow up with. That is just like regular habits. That all of a sudden it was like wait,
Did you study?
why? No, not really.
Did you didn't
I
go to
was
class?
traveling
Did
a
you
lot.
go straight from school to travel?
I was traveling a lot. I was modeling, so I was
Okay,
traveling to
so
different
you
cities.
you
and
started
modeling.
that like when you were 16 or young?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
how did that happen? Did someone spot you in the
Yeah,
street?
yeah.
Really?
I went
Wow.
I went on a school trip to London, and because I lived in
London,
this
right?
like again like medium sized whatever like village in Denmark,
Right.
so I wasn't exposed to like fashion industry or anything glamorous like that. And I went to London on a school trip, and I got scouted like 5 times.
What did they
so-
say? 5 times?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it
Common-
was like the IMG elite, like so I was like,
Wow.
oh wait, there's something here.
What did they say? Do you remember?
Hi, you just been scouted.
Oh really? It's your lucky day.
I don't like that
And you're
way. And I was
15.
like, okay.
What did your parents say to that?
They were, but I think my parents is one of the things I always been maybe kind of determined. If there was something I wanted to do, I would like when I was 13, I signed myself up for a new school. So I started in that school, but then I signed myself up for a dance school. So I
Okay.
did a couple of years on a school for dance.
Like, what
Were you a
kind of-
ballerina?
Yeah.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
Well.
That's
And it was
cool.
mixed, so also like modern dance and different. but
Yeah.
Well, one of the very great schools in Denmark, and I took that decision. I just like applied, and after my parents was like, "Wait, what? You did what?" You know, but I just whenever I had this like I just gotta do this. I always have a very strong pull towards like I just gotta do it. But then of course there was some interference, you know, just like regular life and modeling, Paris, fashion industry, like that doesn't really sound very great, you know, for one's well-being and self-esteem and you know like how you feel about yourself. So the yoga became like a little bit of like a necessity also in just like
So you were doing fashion modeling, you were dancing and yoga when you were before 20,
Wow.
teenager.
Wow, wow.
All three.
Wow.
And drinking.
and drinking.
When did you stop the
Busy,
drinking
busy.
and stuff? When did that
I
start?
guess when I was 28.
Oh,
So
interesting.
28, 27, 28, something
Did
like
you
that.
perform in like Romeo and Juliet or Swan Lake or not quite?
No,
not quite
no,
that?
it was
Just
no.
practice.
I mean, we did perform, but it was not those like epic ones because
No.
no, there was a school, there was an academy, and then there was the people who got into the Royal Dance Academy, which I applied to, but I didn't get in because I was too old. And then there was another dance troupe that did like other types of ballet, and then their school was like they had an open academy. Not open, you had to be accepted, but it was more like modern dance and different kinds. So it was more that. So I wasn't performing in the epics. That was the girls from the Royal. They had those roles. But I was around, and you know, and we also had some performances. You know, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so you moved to London or what?
No, I moved to Paris.
Oh, from Denmark straight to Paris.
I lived in Copenhagen a couple of years, and then I moved to Paris. I think I was 23 or something
23.
when I moved to Paris. I lived there for 5 years.
See, Denmark's like I know Lars von Trier, right? He's one of the I think he's great. But like I was trying to think of a band from music, or I couldn't think of any music suggestions or authors or.
Oh really?
What is it? Is it what is there?
Teach us something.
I mean, famous author is like the Hans Christian Andersen.
Of course, there you go.
Oh,
With
yeah.
the guy.
Filmmakers, Lars von Trier.
Lars von Trier.
He's great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like him, right?
Yeah.
Dogs,
like his
he's in
movie.
Dogsville.
Yeah. He makes
His stuff's
epic
great. I mean,
movies.
Yeah.
he's strange when he opens his
He
mouth.
used to be my favorite. I used to
I kind of
adore
like his kind of Asian provocateur.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a Danish thing because I totally
cool.
get what he means.
Yeah, man.
And for me, it's like,
People turn it
sure,
around.
if you take it in that way, it sounds very, but it's just, it's like, you don't have to be so literal about it. You know, it's like he's very philosophical, and he will like put up interesting scenarios in his own mind and in other people's mind, and I like that. I think it's interesting, but I do get how
And his cinema is
he
genius.
got into,
Yeah.
you know, some spaces.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, it's yeah.
So how was Paris?
I just wanted to say one thing
Sorry.
before I lose it. No, it's okay. Just it's an interesting character quality that you have that's so, I don't know, just making those decisions so fervently. And I feel like when you've been teaching and when I've looked on your website as well, and like just a lot to do with like destiny and mission and taking control of like what you were supposed to do in this life.
Yeah.
And then also when you told the story of Anna and how that all happened with your guidance toward the motherhood. And I don't know, I think you seem to have really, in some way, like mastered that, something that many people struggle with, which is knowing what you're supposed to do and what you're here for. You know, people spend their lifetimes like questioning that.
Yeah.
And so I think you have kind of something about your character and your like anointing or something has that honor.
I mean, I do recognize that there's always been like, but it's always been very clear, like a determination. I also remember moving to Paris. There was also like, I was supposed to go to this other school. I was supposed to go to school. I was supposed to go to this other school. I had this plan to move. And then it was literally like within a week, I was like, no, gotta go to Paris. And I just was like, gotta go. And it just felt so even of course when in the moments, you know, you have your personal doubts, but there's always been like a force pulling me through, I feel.
And where does that come from? Is that, how do you
That's a
describe
good
that
question.
sensation?
I think I would say like cheesy enough, but like spirit, you know, just like
You find that you can make decisions quite without too much wobbling around.
I personally feel like there's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of
So you
like,
go with your gut, or your heart, or your head, or what?
yeah, it's like
All three.
I feel like it's something that aligns. It's something that aligns
Lines
that for
up.
me somehow it makes sense. You know, it's like it just makes sense to me. I'm like, yeah, that is the right decision. And sometimes for the outside it doesn't make sense, but for me it does make sense.
And
So
have you made some big mistakes then?
have I?
Say no.
I don't dwell often with my mistake. I think
really?
that's another quality that I don't really like to dwell on the mistakes.
Right.
That
Okay.
I love the continuity of life. I love this idea of like, who cared what you
It's
did
so
yesterday?
positive,
Who
but-
cared what you did in the past? It's like now is a new day, you know. And it can sound cheesy to say it in that ways, but and also I think maybe sometimes I come across as very like I get a lot done, but I'm very like I love to lay in the bed and like watch a movie doing in the middle of a day. You know, if I weren't here, probably today I would be like, oh God, you know, like I love to get into the flow of life. And actually, this is one thing that I remember more like. When I wasn't practicing Kundalini yoga, something else I was very interested in. So I went to yoga classes, was like regular, like hatha, vinyasa kind of class. I had a moment where I was kind of in between. I moved. I wasn't in Copenhagen anymore. I moved back. That was when all of this happened. Like, God, where do I go? Okay, Paris, somehow. But I had like. I think I've been good to like put myself in that spot. Was like, okay, so I'll go to these yoga classes, and then I started studying positive psychology, but not formally, but just like I think it was again like random. My mom just like handing me a book, like here, positive. A lot of it now. I talked about motherhood. Like I do want to give my mother some credit. You know,
What's her name?
I think my mom's name is Eva.
Eva. What was your name before Namsatya. You told me already.
You can't say.
Wait.
Should we go there? I don't think so.
Oh, you can't say it, really?
There's
I
no
thought that
point.
you told me already, but you haven't told me.
I don't know. Maybe. Who
It
knows?
wasn't like Tracy or
No.
something like that.
Keep
Sharon,
guessing.
Sharon.
Keep guessing. Keep guessing.
So your, sorry, your
Keep
mum's
going,
name?
your mum.
My
sorry?
mom's name is Eva, and
Eva,
I do
okay.
think that
Eva,
she's
like Eva,
Eva.
like Adam and Eve.
Eva.
Wow.
E?
EVA. In Danish, it's
Okay,
Eva.
Yeah, but that's
yeah.
Eve, right?
Yeah,
Eva,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's always, my mom is always, I wouldn't necessarily say spiritual, but she's spiritually curious. So she always, like, throughout my childhood was like, we always had books around, you know. I would like, or like, I remember finding this like meditation CD when I was like 10 years old, and I got into astrology, and my mom would actually buy me like lexicon, like astrology, like when I was 10 years old. So she's been like rolling with me, you know. She was always like, also like helping to nurture my creativity. So I've always like felt that safety, security. Then when I had to make a decision, she was good at just kind
You're
of
together, your parents?
no. Whenever I got to these points where I had to make a decision, she's always been good at just being like, yeah, go. Like I always had that backing from her. So I think that's why, you know, also why I always felt maybe safe in just like making those moves.
Keep
But
going.
yeah.
Keep going, keep going. Keep
But
going.
I don't, you know, it can sound very, and also I know in the classes we're like, gotta go, and gotta do a bunch of things, and let's go, and energy. But back to the positive psychology I got into, which was my mom that just handed me this book about positive psychology, and I started reading about that, and it talked about flow.
Right.
It just talked about flow,
That's
like
cool.
flow state, and I was like, oh, I recognize that. I recognize that from when I'm dancing.
Go with the flow. And
Yeah, or even this like athletes also talk about like this actual like flow state where you're like you're in the
control.
zone.
Actually,
You know,
you
like
feel like you're in control.
you're
of
like
it.
in the zone. You're just like you're beyond time and space. You're just like
Wow.
creating. You're doing things. You know?
It's like mushrooms or something.
I don't know.
You ever had? You didn't try mushrooms?
I didn't go there, but
Well, sometimes you get this thing where everything makes, and
Yeah.
it feels like this flow.
yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
But if you talk with people who are like dancers or athletes or artists, they will talk about this
Yeah, the
state,
zone, the
right?
zone.
The zone,
like
like
the
flow
Tarkovsky movie,
state.
have you seen that? Tarkovsky.
No, I don't know.
There's the thing where
Okay.
the zone.
Yeah.
But
Okay. The movie's called The Zone?
no, there's I forget the name of the movie,
Okay.
but there's an actual. It's a physical place, but
Yeah.
Stalker.
yeah, Stalker. It's a crazy movie.
Stalker?
Yeah, you
Okay.
should watch it.
I'll watch it.
You would like this
It's-
director.
whoa,
Yeah. It's like
Tarkovsky.
long
Tarkovsky probably, yeah.
Russian.
He's only made 4 or 5 movies,
Okay.
but there's these shots where it's just a puddle or water for
Yeah.
long for 20 minutes. I love 20-minute shots of
Yeah.
silence. We haven't got a silence yet.
No!
We're not gonna get it, are we?
We can meditate at the end if you want.
Can you remember who wrote the book?
It was the no, it
No,
was
it's
like
right.
the
It's
book
not
was not great. Like it was
Right,
just
okay,
like
yeah.
whatever, like positive psychology, and I just remember this concept of flow, and I was like, oh yeah, flow. That felt good because I recognized that from being a dancer and also just like drawing and making art when I was a kid. So that kind of followed me, and then Paris and getting into all of these different spaces, which was probably not very great. But again, if you like where you are today, there's not really any regrets. It's like if you like where you are, then the past just helps shape that. So I'm embracing everything in that way, but also. There was I remember certain like pillars that they talked about, and there were basic ones like like security and doing something you love. But then there was other two, which was like community,
Right?
like when you do something, you're part of something, or you have a community. And it stood out to me because maybe just at my young age, I wasn't so aware that was important, but community, and then also just like what we would probably call spirituality, but even just said like just doing something that you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, so like spirituality, or you're doing God's work, however you want to put it, but I just that throughout then all of these other past, like that's just something that stayed with me, where I'm like I'm always trying to see how can I get into that flow state. And then remembering those two pillars is like if it's not something that includes other people or is beneficial for other people, or if it's not something that, you know, bridge me, my finite human existence with something that feels bigger, then it's not going to give me satisfaction. And like this is like positive psychology, which is kind of like studied, and you know, it's a little bit more like measured out than religion or Kundalini yoga, you know. So it feels like that's something that they studied with like people who are more happy and more, you know, happy in their life. And I just always remember those pillars kind of, um, yeah. I think since then, and then it's just building up, you know, into where we are today, maybe. So yeah.
And is there, I don't know quite how to word this question, but like when you master like life and psychology in that way, and you live with more equilibrium, do you then like, I don't know, do you still feel like you experience like the very very high and the very very low, or is it, have you gotten to a state of kind of greater equilibrium?
I just can say it in this way, like in my past, let's go back like 10 years ago. And then I'm thinking like, how many good days did I have in like a week? Maybe sometimes I wouldn't have a good day in a week. How many good days did I have in a month? Where I just like, I felt good. I felt like I was doing something meaningful. I didn't have that many days, you know, they would be rare. And now I feel like I rarely have a quote unquote bad day.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's the huge, yeah, but that's just a big difference.
But do you
for
miss
me.
like, you know, sometimes like the greatest revelations I have sometimes come from the greatest sorrow. Like when I feel like the most sad, or or when I've experienced like what I perceive to be God's nature, is like when I've made the biggest mistake, and then like the mercy comes, and then I love God even more, and it's like I might be like desperately sad, and I need to like really cry, and then the next day it's brighter because the new day comes.
No,
and
absolutely.
So
I go through
it's almost like I don't want to
too.
miss the color, all those colors of life, and the even though I wish I was a bit more balanced, like secretly, I actually love like the intense like highs and lows of it all, because I'm like, that's what it's like to be human, you know.
I absolutely also go through highs and lows, and I just also like a note on that, like as women, like we are just cyclical, you know. It's like there's nothing static about being a woman. You're always being or flowing, or you know, like you, it's just you're always in that state of like, so for me it's been a little bit like just like the maturity and like the non-harming element. For example, now with my husband, I really truly feel like we have a beautiful, respectful relationship with each other. But there are definitely places where I would take things in the past that I recognize were coming from an ego need to be seen, or like, you know, being very dramatic about things, where I'm like, I just don't like to go there anymore. You know, I'm not getting the thing out of it that I used to maybe think that I would get out of it. And now I'm just like, you know, there's just certain things always like, usually I'm taking that because for me, usually the dramas, the highs and the lows would be in relationships. I'm a little bit of like a monogam, like relationship person. Like I haven't spent much time actually out of a relationship. So for me, a lot of that drama maybe was channelized into relationships, and now it's a certain level of respect where I'm just like, you know, there are things that just like cannot be undone, unsaid, you know. And that helps me to, even when I am in those moments, I still recognize that like it's my issue, it's not my husband's issue. He can help me, he can assist me, but it's not his issue, you know. And then other highs and lows of life, I love things moving me. So I love movies, as we talked about. I love watching movies. I love this may be another reason why I like the technology, but I like watching things that are funny. You know, like I love to experience those things, and also just like that's other people's creations. And sometimes I'm like, wow, I feel very fortunate to be in a time where something like that is so widely available to us, that like if I'm having whatever, if I'm a bit down, I'm like doing something very intense, I'm like, I gotta lighten up a little bit, then I can go on my phone, I can just like watch a 2-minute clip of like a stand-up comedian saying something fun, it's just like those kind of things are so available.
Which
I'm like,
ones you like?
it's really late, but I really liked, like the Saturday Night Live and these kind of things.
yeah.
But I think it's
From
just
the 70s or contemporary ones?
no, just even the contemporary one. I will follow I'll follow the account and just like like what is it, like every Monday, Sunday, there's like things coming out, and I'm like, I've gotta watch those. So, I just I like to I absolutely love also. I love beauty and fashion, and
So what that means?
that's
Is that like
that's a
Indian,
cast.
Indian thing? Like the super white eye people?
No, it's the opposite. The
Oh, really?
untouchables
Oh,
are
that's
there.
cool. I was get into that.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
that's-
actually, if we went from like Indian tradition, I would be an untouchable. So you were right
Right.
about that.
Okay.
Because my grandmother was a cleaning lady. So
You love,
I would
love.
been that would have been the.
Your grandmother?
Grandmother's a cleaning lady?
In
She was a
Denmark?
cleaning lady.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
She
that.
did many things. She was also a DJ at some point.
All right.
She took care of children, and then she was also a cleaning lady.
She
for
sounds
many years.
amazing.
She
She
is.
is amazing.
Huh?
What's her name?
Oh, we called her Tuta,
Tuta.
but her name is
Tuta.
Inger Johannes. She's from Norway.
Inga.
Yeah,
And she's passed.
yeah. She passed 2 years ago.
But that must be like a lineage from her too. Was she your mom's mom or no?
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's-
to your mom, to you. Interesting.
There you go. That's where it all comes from. Again.
Okay. Oh, did you want to? Who wants
I was
to?
just going to say, like, okay, the Kundalini, it's great. It's a bit like, for me, like a narcotic thing. Like, each teacher is a, we had a laugh about each teacher. It was like a
It
different
was
drug.
different drunk.
So, yeah, I think you were like Colombian.
You were like
straight
this-
from the source.
Straight from the source, like
I think Borderline's more like MDMA, maybe.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so we've done that. We had this conversation.
Yeah.
But the thing that with me is, like, I feel great after the class,
Yeah.
but then at some point I just go, and I'm like, and then I don't know what to do. I want to keep the
Meaning
like emotionally,
my
like
mood,
very
mentally,
like
right.
your mood drops.
Yeah.
like feeling it so
Energy,
wonderful and like
everything.
so high, but then feeling like kind of a bit like in turmoil and like
You
low,
know?
like later on, and not knowing quite how to navigate
I
that.
mean, there are two. If I will give my diagnosis, but there are two possible options. That one could just be like there's a lot of energy running through the system, and sometimes when it doesn't have the outlet, there's not something that you want to run it through. It just kind of like short circuit, like it just like it stays. But is that ever? I don't know. I mean, what exactly happens? Or there's just like. Sometimes it takes a little while to build a nervous system, just to like hold the energy, hold the frequency.
Is there any tricks you can do? Like, because it's like kind of sudden. It's not like and it kind of happens a lot.
I haven't heard about it before. Like I haven't heard about it in
I'm
this
surprised
way.
by that. Because
I haven't heard about it in this way. But what you mean? My thing that I sometimes would get in the beginning was that I would feel very cold after practice. I would practice and then my temperature would drop, and I was like,
I've had
"What's
that
happening?"
as well, yeah.
And just like feel this kind of like dampness, like leaving the body, which I then understood later on was considered like we all live in this kind of like cold depression state, just like as a society, as humanity, and it's basically like the, like gas, when gas is lit, but then there's a dampness that comes with it too. So it would kind of be it's not something very specific, but like that would be when that leaves the body, it can make the body very cold. And then there's another thing which happens more often now, which is when you get to the tantric energy, you can become very, very hot, and then you become very, very cold. And actually, when I found the trick was just to you switch the nostril.
Yeah.
You just switch the nostril. It's so easy, so subtle. So that's how I managed that. But the thing with the mood, I don't know if I really recognize. But it's very. Now also you guys you very much like jumped into it and then did every day, so you're in a process, right? I mean, it's not on like going to like therapy or something, and like it really, you're working through many things, so sometimes just opening up, that's that part. Actually, now that you say it relates to something I thought yesterday, that sometimes you know, the practice, everything can seem, and we often present it also in that way, that everything is very like linear. It's like you do this, you get this outcome. Then there's this, then there's this. And I had a moment yesterday where it's like I just recognized something that I thought was happening, where I had a day before that where it wasn't, I wouldn't categorize this as a bad day, but it was not the best day. Like, just like I didn't feel super motivated. I felt a bit sluggish. I did my things. I did my sadhana, but it was a little bit with an attitude, but I got things done. And actually in that day, I had a moment where I was like, oh, you know, I'm not on track. You know, I had this like, I'm not on track. I'm not doing it right. And then what happened was that the day after, I just woke up and I was like, oh, I wake up, I do the coaching, like everything switched, like my attitude switched, and I was just like, oh, now I'm just, and I did it better than I had for like a long time, or I did better than, you know, some of the things that I'd had a resistance to, I just experienced this like, oh, there was no resistance anymore. And that made me think that I was like, oh, maybe I got to a point in my progress, in my practice, where I actually was opening something. Like I got to, like I was doing my practice just kind of steady, and then I got to that day where I thought everything is falling apart, you know, like I had that moment that's like, what am I doing, like I'm not keeping up, like what is going on, what is happening, I was doing so good. And then, you know, sometime maybe that's like the clearing, like that's like this a subconscious something has to pass through. And then the day after I was like, oh, it's gone, like but that was a moment where I felt like it's actually gone. Whereas the other days maybe it was something I was battling against it, you know. So it's still to this day I feel like it's a process. And one of the things that I just remember thinking was like, you know, maybe we just shouldn't be too dogmatic about like I feel great, now I don't feel good, it's the practice. It's like, you know, it's just life, and it's just like the process. And
right.
and we don't always completely know like what exactly is the thing. And even if we feel in a moment like, oh, I'm not doing great, you know, actually that can be the catalyst, as you also said, sometimes it can just be the catalyst for like, I'm going to dig deeper. Okay, now I'm you know, now the thing is actually rooted out, or I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, and I find the motivation. So I try right now just to stay very open to, like, how do I feel? What is going on? What is it's really,
because I feel like I became a bit addicted to it. Like even just in the short time, like if I don't go, I won't feel good. Like if I don't go, I won't feel good. Or if I don't go, I won't find the answer of where I'm supposed to go. And then I was like, hang on, that's taking a bit of a like we talked. Is it like becomes a bit of an idol then? Because I'm like, because it's like, I should be okay without that, you know. Like you have everything in you, and
well, it's kind of just like you say, like it's a device to awaken the energy that's already there, right? So it's everything's already
we've
there.
already got it, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's not.
It's already there, and it's like also what Kundalini does is like it's a bodily mechanical adjustment sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like the energy is there, and you just need to like align, and then it come, and align is like not the right word,
You got
but
different gears or something. So
and even it's like, you know, something is maybe a little bit off, and it's like, oh, now it's okay, now the energy is coming through.
But the thing that fascinates me is if it is like scientific, then you can pinpoint different things. Okay, today we're going to make you, this is for prosperity, or this is for that. But obviously you can't at the moment. But maybe one day you're learning how you can specifically say, okay, today what's your problem? If we can fix this by doing this with your hand or whatever. I'm skeptical.
I don't exactly know. I'm skeptical too, because also what I see right now is that people want to use the practice in that way. They really want to use it in that way. But they want to be like, so we need to make an app that you feel this, and then you do this meditation, and then you get this result. And I'm like, I'm not sure. And also this whole idea of like, we want to study it, you know, like people have this issue and we prescribe this meditation. I'm like, I'm skeptical. I don't feel it's the right approach. I don't feel it's the right approach.
I prefer like subtle body work. I can understand that. But if you're going to say, come to class and you're going to get $50 or something, or it's going to be, you're going to prosperity's more. But if you're going to just do some work to make you feel good, that's great. But I don't think you can make someone rich. What do you mean by prosperity? You mean it doesn't mean money, right?
No, prosperity is just what makes you feel prosperous.
It's the first thing people
abundant.
they're like, okay, money.
Yeah.
So people, we can look at also like people who are very successful, successful is also a subjective word, but people, let's say, who has either a lot of money, a lot of fame. What is the thing there? It's like there's a certain, they can hold something. You know, if you're famous, you can hold a lot of attention on you. Many of us cannot even get on a stage. You know what I mean? It's like we will freak out. We will find a reason not to do it. So if you are putting yourself in that position, you are just, and I talked about this with some friends the other day, and they also got a little bit like, well, but there's bad celebrities. It's like, I'm not talking about good or bad. If you have a big energy field, it doesn't mean you're a good person. You can be a bad person and have a big energy field. So it's not even about that, but it's just like, there's certainly an ability to hold attention and attention is energy, you know, so the more people look at you, the more energy is sending towards you, and people have projections on you and they have thoughts about you, you know, and if you have a weak energy field, it just either just won't come to you, or you will kind of crumble under it, which we also see people do, you know, quick rise to fame, and then you crumble under the pressure and life spiral. But let's take a celebrity that actually like has success and is respected. Tom Hanks or something, I don't know. You know, like everyone likes him, you know, whatever. And there's an energy field there, right? That he can actually hold that. So what we're trying to do, maybe as normal people, is to try and build our energy field so that we can also just hold more, you know. And so, okay, build energy field. What does it mean? There absolutely is like an auric projection that happens through the mind. So one thing is like what we think, of course, is like, but it's also just like a clearing of the field around, you know, which is an extension of the body, and we know that everything has it. So when we talk about prosperity, it's basically that we're kind of trying in a way to just create those bigger energy fields. But some people are just born with them, and some people it takes a tiny mini adjustment, and some people they will have to work on it for years and years, because again it's like, where's the person at? So whenever we start to be like, this meditation is going to do this, it's like it doesn't take into consideration where someone
everyone's
is
different.
Yeah,
Everyone's
so
exactly.
it's like
different.
so of course a lot of the time people will just like subjectively feel, oh, I did Gyan Chakra Kriya now for 40 days, and all of a sudden my life, like I receive things in a
It has to be recorded.
all right.
Thank you.
Should I sit in the middle?
I think so.
We can try a new
So
constellation.
this is the last 10 minutes.
Last 2 minutes, okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't remember where we're at, but yeah, I mean that's maybe why it's like the whole idea of prescribing it in this way. I think it's just good when you just think about yourself and, you know, like not compare with other people's progress, and just, you know, that's another teaching. It's like you compare, you shut down your own system, you know. So it just leaves you confused, and when you're confused you don't go anywhere. Yeah.
One thing I really wanted to ask about is like, when you talked about like your immersion in the world, like not being set apart, but being like immersed in the world, as like that's part of the Kundalini philosophy. But then does it? How do I want to ask it? But there's something.
It's actually a Sikh teaching, so
A
not
Sikh teaching
necessarily.
more,
I mean,
okay.
there's an overlap just because Yogi Bhajan was a Sikh. So for
Yeah.
him, of course, there's the, yeah.
Because if it is such a great technology, then it should be it should be accessible to everyone, right? It should
Yeah.
be like for
Well,
people
it
who are
is.
really, really poor, and people who don't feel like glamorous enough, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And if something's that good, it should be taken into like lots of different, more like down to earth spaces. Like, is that something that you feel like?
Oh yeah,
Can you see
but
that
it's
happening?
being, it
And
is being
does that
done.
happen?
That
Okay.
does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're only so many teachers and practitioners, you know, but it is expanding. It's only been quote unquote public for like 50 years. You know, it's like it's very new in many ways. We are only like the second or third whatever generation who are really practicing it, and only since, I don't know the year, but it's only in 2010s that it was put online. You know, like now you have the videos of Yogi Bhajan and the lectures and the classes. But that's actually another thing I find, that with the technology, this is something that will spread,
Helps,
because
yeah.
the old communities, I find, are very kind of like close up. Like I, for example, when I was in Paris, I didn't find, and Paris is actually, there's a lot of also Yogi Bhajan, like old time students who live there, but none of them would reach me. You know, I wouldn't know about them because they were not using social media. And still, many of them are not. They're not using social media. They're not. So that for me feels that it feels like a little bit like a closed off community sometimes, but I don't feel like that's what we do with Rama. I feel like we're doing the opposite. We're trying to make it accessible. We're trying to make it, you know, reach reach people. And many teachers also teach open classes, community class.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we have those offers as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just, you know, there is the idea of, which is something your budget said, which is just like, you come with nothing, you leave with nothing. You know, it's like, it's just an exchange of energy. It's like, you want to receive the energy, bring something, offer something, you know, and in that, so that's why it's like it is monetized. And then also just, you know, we have teachers who've dedicated sometimes their whole life to it. It's like, I only think it's fair that there's a certain level of exchange,
of course,
you know.
Yeah.
But it is very much, I mean, there's many community classes, and and I think that's also what we're trying to figure out, how can it reach, because as I just said now, like a lot of people are more interested in this, like, this meditation will give you this, and like using it like curatively. And it is, I mean, even for me, I asked myself this question. I've been asking it for a long time, and I feel like just recently I had a little bit of like, oh, I could do it in this way. But like, I was like, how do you translate this into, like, for example, social media? I'm like, how do I share this? Like, how it's very difficult. It's not an easy thing to share. My teacher,
The best
Mandek,
things aren't easy
No.
to share.
they can't
actually,
really be
they don't.
shared
They
in
don't.
this
You can't.
way. But I was like,
Why do you not in the camera?
I don't know.
Oh.
Just
I
come a
don't
bit
want to
closer.
sit
Come a bit
too
closer.
close.
why? Squeeze in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best things in life. I mean, even the best. It's all beyond words, I think. So that's even hard, just to put a feeling into words, or to teach something with words. It's like
Yeah.
even like language. It's all a paradox anyway, right? It doesn't. Whatever you can say, the opposite is true, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your favourite colour?
Guess.
It's not white, is it? That's all the colours, is it? How's white all the colours anyway? How did you figure out that white's all the colours?
Yogi Bhajan
Yeah.
gave that teaching.
It's
that
in
white
it,
is
like,
all the colors. But I also think just like
refracted light, the prism,
scientifically,
you know?
right? It's
Prism.
like,
Okay.
Yeah, the
I think scientifically, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And black's not a colour at all, right?
I think
That's
it's
what
a,
they say.
a shade.
It's the absence of color, no?
Okay.
It's like, yeah,
So, white's your favourite colour?
I don't know.
You don't know what your favourite colour is? Come
No,
on.
I do. It's like the light green, you know,
Okay.
like a. The best thing I have right now is like a matcha latte.
Oh, yeah.
Like the light, I always
Pastel,
love this, like
almost pastel.
like light
Yeah,
green
it's
color.
lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that one, like spring, pale green.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Favourite vegetable? I'm not joking. Obviously, it's not a carrot. Don't say carrot.
Favorite vegetable. The thing that came to mind was like an aubergine,
There you go.
eggplant.
You fry it?
Oh, so good.
You eat it raw? No.
No, not raw. But that's a great vegetable. It's very healthy for women too. It's like helps
Yeah,
to.
it's good for hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't had that in a long time.
That was just what came to mind today.
But you're in touch with your masculine side, right?
You tell me. I hope so. People always perceive me as very feminine, but for me inside, it's very it's way more structured. I feel. Yeah.
You have a beautiful like duality. I think you hold those two things really well, like being very like ethereal and the feminine qualities, but also very like practical and very.
Yeah.
You seem to hold the two things really well together. So that's the feminine and masculine, I think. Yeah. Yeah. You had another.
Favourite building?
Oh, favorite building. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, man.
Ooh. Oh, but I have to think about that one.
Mine's is in Rome with the hole in the middle.
The
It's definitely mine.
What's it
It's
called?
got a Greek name.
Yeah,
Pantheon.
Pantheon.
I love that place,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Have you
I
been
need
in
to
there?
see that.
Oh,
Have you been
absolutely.
in it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh,
right?
that's up there also with me.
It's old as well. I think
Yeah.
it's older than you think, like 6th century or something.
Yeah.
Okay, you can think about that. We'll get in episode 2. You'll tell us.
let you know.
Same time next week.
Yeah.
Favorite form of transport?
Oh, I would love to fly everywhere. I'm like, why are we not there yet when we're flying? I like elevation. I always dream that I'm flying, so I'm going to go with flying.
That's what you're actually. I wanted to, when I'm doing your classes. I don't want to be kissing your ass too much, but
But we did say we
it's
were like,
well,
we're
you're
flying.
great, you're beautiful, but yeah, it's like you're flying, right? Is that by design?
I
think
maybe I fly
That
a
is
lot
what-
in my
yeah,
dreams, so that's
yeah.
why I had no hesitation to say flying, even though I know it's like
That's funny.
I don't love to go on an
Yeah.
airplane.
actually-
like that's not the thing, but I love it.
And every time
Transportation.
after your class, you would say, "I'm fly." She makes, her classes make me fly.
She's already got a big ego.
No, she doesn't. She's
joking,
super
I'm
humble. She's so humble.
Yeah, we've been a bit sycophantic.
No, it's just being
all these,
kind.
we wanted to.
It's been
You got any
great.
tattoos?
It's-
I think you do. No tattoos?
I said no, definitely
She
not.
said no.
Yeah.
No, because I always was like, there's nothing I can commit to, and anything I ever thought like, oh, I would like a tattoo of that. I'm so happy I did.
Because
yeah,
you're right
it's
at the
just like-
age where everybody was getting
Yeah,
them, right?
everyone was getting tattoos. I was
Yeah.
very close, but I couldn't commit to anything at that point. And now I'm just, and then I became too model. It's like, no, I'm not going to. So yeah, no, I managed to get through that time. I went just without any problem. I don't have any. No.
I've got more.
Yeah, my
questions. A book full of nonsense. Give us your favourite piece of music.
Ooh. Oh, I can't give my favorite ever, but I have to give something now, which might just be interesting. The theme of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
The Mandalorian, like Disney Star Wars.
The first series? Or
Yeah.
is it the same one? I remember I
It's
watched it.
no. It's like a very specific pice of music, and you have to listen to it. It's just
Oh, wow.
incredible.
Okay.
And I will literally
Classical?
just. It's I will have to play it.
Okay.
It's like it has some like
It's not
flute,
spacer now.
and it has there's a rhythm to it, and it just like it just gets me going lately. Yeah.
So it's a modern,
Yeah.
contemporary piece of...
No, it's like I guess it's a classical, but he's called like Lucas Göransson, and he's also works on movies. Like he just makes incredible scores. He's up there with like Hans Zimmer and these people, you know.
Check it.
So like he makes them amazing. Yeah, so I have to
Cool.
say
Yeah, we will
the
listen
score
to
of
it.
the Mandalorian.
But you like that Spacer disco song?
The what?
The Spacer song. Had you heard that before?
Which one?
I sent you this YouTube song.
Oh no, I
Spacer.
haven't heard it. Oh, it didn't work. Sorry, the
Oh,
link
shit,
didn't
you
work. I could have told you.
It's like a disco, because you were
pressed
talking
and
about
I was
disco.
like- I was talking about which one?
You were talking about disco and I sent you this disco.
Disco. Okay, it was a disco song. No, sorry, it was like busy. Resend it to me, or I'll try to fix the link.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Food? Favourite food? You said aubergine, didn't you?
Yeah,
That's
that was the vegetable. Yeah.
But favourite thing to
Are
get?
you vegan or no?
No, I'm vegetarian. I mean,
Vegetarian.
but I have dairy. Yeah, I really need that dairy. I really, yeah. I love Indian food. It's such a cliche, but I love Indian food. I love the palak paneer.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. Are people practicing Kundalini in India? Or is it more of it's a Western thing?
They are not. They're not. Like a lot of people think that Sikhs will know what Kundalini yoga is, and they don't.
Yeah,
So
some
that's
in there,
not a
some-
given. But some do. I mean, some do. I
Yeah.
just told you about the grantee at the in Palma here. He sometimes comes to our classes, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
open to it. But generally, no. There's their practice, their daily practice is different from a Kundalini, and this is also the thing with me. When I became a Sikh, my teacher was very like, you're yogi first. So that's always like my approach to it. That, and again, as we talked about, like the practice is in many ways like neutral. It's like you're a yogi. It's like a yogi who knows how to yoga and to weave and to like create. Basically, like a tantric is someone who can weave with the sounds, and like weave with sound is like the energy waves. So it's like creating, right? You're creating your your own universe in that way.
Yeah.
So it was a good reminder. It's like yogi first, and also like yoga first. So that's what my daily practice always the yoga.
You do it in the morning. You wake up at 4 and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, every morning.
Yeah.
4 every morning.
You know, I mean, I have a son, so I can't really put an alarm. But
Yeah.
by now, I just have that internal clock. And for
That's
sure,
so good.
if there's a day where I don't get up before the sunrise, it's a little bit of a weird day.
You go back to sleep after. You
It
stay up.
depends. It depends.
You
Most of the
must-
time,
you
I
must
just
crash
stay
at
up.